Welcome back to the Stormwater Creek podcast, guys. Got Abe and Braden here, and we are joined by a pretty cool dude that I'm super excited to get to talk to. His name is Ethan West, and Ethan just completed a 29-day, 550-mile kayak trip from Telegraph, Texas to Matagorda Bay. I've got that right, correct?
Oh yes, you got that right on. So yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really happy to be on the show with you guys with Brandon and Abe. Always like talking about outdoors and stuff. So this is a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
Well, we're super excited to have you on there. So you are from Mason, Texas, correct?
I'm from Fredericksburg originally,
Okay.
but I have a business over in Mason. I'm a barber. That's what I do. And so I'm kind of from the Mason area. We have a ranch in between, so it's kind of uh, I'm kind of from the area, but I can't really claim I'm from Mason. If that makes sense.
Sure.
But heck, yeah. So originally from Fredericksburg, I was actually born at the town of Lano by the Lano River. Now that's not why I picked to do the trip or whatever, but so yeah, that's kind of a, you know, uh, I guess we'll go into a introduction, maybe a short story on me,
Absolutely.
so I guess people know who I am. So I'm 22. I'm a born in Mason, Texas. I hiked the Appalachian Trail when I was 20, and I recently did the 550-mile kayaking trip, and I finished that, I would say about three weeks ago, right in there, and so I'm kind of settling back in.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of a recovery period.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm.
So, what's kind of led you to? I mean, obviously, the Appalachian Trail that starts in Georgia and ends in Maine, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Uh,
Um,
we'll start with that one. What was the what led you down that path?
okay, so I would say about freshman, sophomore year in high school, I kind of, I started reading some books, and I saw a documentary by National Geographic on the Appalachian Trail. And that's something a lot of Texans have no clue about. It's a 2,000 mile hiking trail, and it's the third longest one in the United States. And it's actually the most popular out of the top three longest hiking trails. Um, so I started researching it. It's not something I really thought I was going to do, and I read a few books. And what you kind of do is every day you end up hiking, however far you can walk, and setting up camp, and sleeping where you are, getting up, doing it the next day. You'll hike, anywhere from 3 to 5, 7 days, and then you'll resupply in a town that you walk to. And I really thought that would be a real cool thing. At the time, like, I had no experience in hiking, and even when I left for the trail, I didn't really have it. But it's one of those things you do a lot of research, and it's kind of like, how I've always thought if you're going on a trip out of your state after something you don't know, you put in a lot of research to close the gap. Um, and so that's kind of how I got going on the Appalachian Trail thing. I actually planned to do it since my sophomore year in high school. And so I planned for about 4 years. And becoming a barber was actually a part of that plan, so I could pay for it all by myself. And, I graduated barber school, started working, raised the money, and then I headed off. And it took me 145 days to complete. And
Wow.
that's right there around 4.5 months. Now, a lot of people think, oh, it's one long haul. It's kind of a series of miniature hikes because, you're stopping in a town every 5 days. So it's, it's something that you pace yourself. So that was kind of the first big adventure I've ever really done. And at being a young man, and, I still am, it kind of sets in a lot of harsh realities. but it teaches you a lot. Um, and so that's kind of the short story on the Appalachian Trail deal.
Wow, that's I mean, that's pretty. What a cool adventure to go on. You know, every 5 days hitting a new town, and like you said, just 2,000 miles is. I mean, you walked from Georgia to Maine. Just putting that into perspective for
And being a young person,
yeah.
just like, you said you did that at the age of 20.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm 24. I couldn't imagine, like, the mentality you go, just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. For one, convincing my mom that I would be quite all right, but
Yeah.
Well, a trick about that, Brandon, is also being dumb enough to just go ahead and do it without
Sure.
thinking too far into it.
sure. Sometimes that's
You
all it
know, like
takes.
they don't say men mature like psychologically until age 25. So maybe it was a good thing I went at 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't do it.
You
You've
know?
got 3 more years. So.
Yeah, like I would have went. That's a bad idea.
So, what was the hardest thing about making a trip like that?
Well, of course, obviously, there's a big hurdle in planning.
Sure.
A lot of people, when they do a trip like that, they go, "I'll do it someday." Well, when I decided I was going to do it, that's when the planning started. And so I guess the first step, the first push, I guess, is kind of always the hardest. Taking off that much time
Yeah.
and setting yourself up to get off for that much time is a difficulty. And even as at the age of 20, I still had to really work around and figure out how am I going to take off for 4 to 5 months and do this thing. Like something that I've been trying to get going the last 2 years. We do trophy runs. So we breed it and we sell rams to game ranches.
Okay.
And so I've been trying to get that off the ground. And so at the time, I had about 40 or 50 heads of sheep. Of course, they're not inclusive sheep, but they were my sheep at the time, and we got about 80 head now. So I had to figure out who's going to feed them. And, for a 20-year-old, you don't really have all that many responsibilities,
Yeah.
Like compared to a man who is 25, 30, 35, or 40, where, you're talking kids, you're talking mortgages, to where even when I was young, it was kind of hard to take the time off. And I would say when I got on the trail, the biggest thing is kind of realizing, as a young man, you're not, I wouldn't say perfect, but you're not invincible.
Yeah.
And then you start having to think, because when you're 20, you want to go, oh man, I'm tough, I can go muscle it out. Well, slowly throughout the whole trip, with the mental game and everything, you start thinking days ahead. And you start, every obstacle you come up on, you go, how is this going to affect me in 2 days? And I would say gaining that wisdom through trial and error on the trail was a really big deal. And conquering your personality, because your faults will come out to dry. If you're too cocky, then, you'll end up in the rain or something, soaking wet or, whatever the case may be. And so I would say the mental game, once I got on the trail, was the hardest thing.
I can imagine. That's the same thing about, like they say about a backcountry hunt, right? Is, you get out there, you get up into those mountains, you get a couple days in, and if you're not mentally able to handle it, I mean, you may be the strongest physical dude on earth, but if you don't have it between your ears, doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's like most things. You got to have a balance of being able to physically handle something, and most of that comes from a mental aspect, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like the first week I started, it was kind of interesting. I met a linebacker from Florida. He was a linebacker on one of the college teams, and he decided he was going to, I think he dropped out or something
Oh, wow.
of college stuff, or took off a semester or something to hike the Appalachian Trail. So we're talking this man is a 6'3", 6'4", 200-pound linebacker.
Yeah.
And you look at this guy, and one of the statistics you hear is only 1 out of 4 people make it on this thing. And you look, I'm 6'1", but I weigh probably 175 pounds. So
Yeah.
I'm like a tall, skinny dude. And so I look over and I think, this man is the 1 out of 4. And I'm looking back at Neil, skinny and stuff. Well, what was funny is he quit in about a week and a half. And you sit there and you go, physically, this was a bear of a man.
Yeah.
He should have made it, but he didn't. And why didn't he? It was the mental game,
Yep.
He let his mind get the better of him.
How do you stay sharp in something like that? Because I figured like you said, a week you can get through, but you get into 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. You start to. How do you keep yourself sharp and what was something you used to stay kind of on top of your game?
Well, I would probably say that when you're gone for that long of a duration, on a trip like that, that's when a lot of growth happens. Like, I would say in your resolve, like if you're going to do something, because, the people who aren't going to do it, they're going to pack up and they're going to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Appalachian Trail is very good for me because, I'm a Texan. And for me to put the Appalachian Trail, I got to do the exact same thing as if when I finish it. The process is still the same. And when you're sitting there and you're thinking about quitting, you still got to walk your butt back or to wherever you're going to go.
Yeah.
Like, since you're in between towns, you don't get to go, I quit, and then somebody scoops you up.
Yeah, it's like a car doesn't come and pick you up.
Yeah. And another part of it, and this sounds kind of bad, I already went and I told a bunch of people the 3 years I was planning it. And so there was some social pressure too. And I wouldn't say I was always mentally strong, but I had a better mind on me at the time than most 20-year-olds did.
Sure.
And so when I would get into a tough situation, I would go, it's tough now, but bear through it. And this is where, food, like after a long time of walking on the trail or whatever, food is the biggest motivator. Like, you reward yourself. And I know that sounds bad, but eventually it gets to a point in which, like other aspects of your life, instead of it being food, you go, I'm going to do this, and you have the satisfaction of completing that task. And so I would say that for me, there's never really been a magic trick. I would say there's little rewards. Like, I'm sure y'all guys have been cooking or something, and you go, okay, if I make it up this peak, what we'll do is we'll sit up there and we'll drink some water. Now, that doesn't seem like much of a reward compared to, like, a nice burger in town or something.
Mm-hmm.
But you learn how to control yourself.
Sure.
And you work with that, and, eventually you're able to kind of conquer yourself. So that's, conquering your mind, your faults. And, that's a big part of outdoors. I think it kind of, you get put into a lot of situations in which it brings out the best in you. Now, it's not comfortable, but it does bring out the best in you.
That's like you said. That's what you got to do. You got to give yourself some sort of motivation to keep going and that resolve. And like you said, I'm sure you walked out of that knowing more about yourself and feeling. I can't even imagine the sense of like accomplishment and achievement you had when you got to the end.
It something. What was kind of funny is it was kind of a delayed reaction. So I hit the last peak. I was done. My biggest thing was getting to go home and see all my family again because I hadn't seen them in 4.5 months.
Yeah.
And the time that sensation hit me is when, because I think I took 3 different planes to get back home, and I left out of Bangor, Maine, hit New York, then hit Georgia, and then all the way to San Antonio. And that's actually when Hurricane Harvey hit.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I flew into, instead of, what was it? It was taking Houston and then going to San Antonio. I hit Georgia to San Antonio. That's how it rerouted.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I hit the San Antonio airport, I got through the thing, and I jumped in my mom's car, and all my family members were in there, and I shut the door. That feeling hit me, because then I was finally back home.
Yeah,
in a place where, I'm back.
You returned, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
You could do a whole different podcast just on the Appalachian Trail.
I can't, yeah.
It's getting more and more popular, and so we'll see how it goes. There's a lot of people that, instead of trying to hike that thing, they're just on it to drink beer, in the first quarter. I'm sure y'all guys have probably seen in, recent news, we had kind of a mishap on the Appalachian Trail. There was a guy that was attacking another person, which is, a very rare thing
Sure.
on the Appalachian Trail. And statistically, it all happens in the first quarter. You get further down at the halfway mark. Usually, anybody who makes about halfway makes it the whole way.
Yeah, you've separated the men from the boys at that point, and everybody's focused on getting to the end.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's an amazing deal. It's a privilege to experience.
Yeah. Well, which leads us to your next adventure. What made you decide to get into a kayak and go down a stretch of river?
Oh yeah, so I got back home, and I kind of took a break for a while, and to tell you the truth, I wasn't really feeling all that big in adventure. For a little while, you just you get back home after a trip like that, and you go eat ice cream, and you don't think about nothing about hiking.
Yeah.
But eventually I got to a point, and I'm not a big hiking buff, but I like to see country that nobody else usually sees.
Yeah.
I think we all seek that. And I was going, I want to see Texas, and I looked up hiking trails in Texas, and there was one that was 70 miles. And I'm sitting there going, well, that's kind of lame.
Yeah, after the Appalachian Trail, that just won't do.
Yeah, and so I went, okay, I got to figure out another way. And so, a few months went by. I never really gave it any thought. And this is back, last year we had an extreme drought in the Fredericksburg, Reno area, in Texas. There was no rain. And it finally occurred to me that I could paddle a great distance on the water.
Yeah.
With navigable waterways in the state of Texas.
Yep.
And so what I ended up doing is I researched, because I went, somebody else has done something like this. And so I typed in River to Ocean Trip, Texas. And the only thing that popped up on Google was 3 boys back in the 1930s that all jumped into a canoe at Ballinger, Texas, and they paddled all the way down to Matagorda Bay. And I sat there and I went, now that sounds like something to do.
That's an adventure.
Yeah, that's an adventure, And so I started researching. They did it again in their 70s. In 1991, they did it a second time. And as far as I know, there was one other lady. I say one other lady. There was one lady that did it from Ballinger down to Matagorda. And her name is Debbie Richardson. And she's the only other person in modern times to do a trip similar to mine. But I didn't want to paddle through all the lakes. And it's not that I couldn't. It's just that you're just on a lake.
Yeah.
Back when they did in the 1930s, it's a river. There was a few dams starting to go up. But, I just didn't want to do it that way. And I went, well, I kind of want to go from my home. And so I went, I'll take the Pedernales River, and then I realized I don't want to die because I looked at the satellite and it gets way too thin. Not saying it couldn't be done,
Yeah.
but I'd like to paddle on my paddling trip.
Yeah, exactly. Not hike a kayak.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I did was me and my brother, we kayak, we fish. That's what we like to do. And we had a 14-year-old Captain 140, and I asked him if I could borrow it from him for this trip, and he reluctantly said yes. And instead, I put it on the Llano River. And so I went all the way up to the South Branch, and I actually caught a little flack for this, but I went up. When I put in, I went up to where I could get to the source of, the river. And, of course, all the videos and stuff I took, people were giving me hit because they said I was going upriver instead of down. But that's how I kind of stumbled on, this idea to paddle in the state of Texas. Now, the thing about the whole deal is it's not really my original idea. It's kind of a modified idea off of somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I slowly kind of came up on something that kind of turned into this big old deal, because, everybody in Mason, I told them what I was doing, and, I'll tell people I hiked the Appalachian Trail, but for Texans, that has no significance, because most of them don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And so, it's, when I did this deal, and all my friends saw, he kayaked from, Telegraph down to Matagorda. Then it was,
that was something.
kind of mutated, into this big deal. I guess it was a lot more, let's say marketable. I'm not making any money, but it was a lot catchier than the Appalachian Trail I did.
Which is so crazy because, not to diminish one over the other, but,
no.
But to walk 22, from Georgia to Maine, that's so impressive. Both of these are such huge accomplishments in an individual's life, and so you're getting everything planned together. So you started, you went up to the headwater and then back down, which still that's pretty impressive.
What's kind of funny is that the headwaters, the headwaters of the Llano River it's kind of arguable, like where it really is, because there's a bunch of inlets that kind of all form.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the South Branch. There's two branches, the North and then the South Branch. The South Branch is shorter than the North. And where I was put in, I was told the wrong thing, and there's no cell service. And so I went up a different arm than my first intended arm. And so I went up a place called Paint Springs. And, the landowners through there have dammed up, all out there. And so there's probably about 5 miles. Well, every mile has a dam. And so, you'd have to get your kayak around it and, haul up it, which I knew I'd had to do anyway.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a deal. I had a set of wheels I could put under my kayak where I could wheel it around. And what I didn't realize at the time, though, is getting to where I got was probably rarer than the other branch. The other branch is the 700 Springs branch.
Okay.
Well, Paint Creek, it has 5 dams, and they've fenced all those 5 dams along the side. Well, we had, a record flood of 40 foot, down, on the Llano this last October. A lot of water washed out those 5 fences. Well, those fences haven't been down for 30 to 40 years, to where I'm probably the first kayaker up that branch, or the first person on a boat of any sort that's not from around there in a long time.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is I would come up on stretches of water, and deer would snort at you, but they'd run into the brush and then they'd come back out with 10 other deer, and they'd just walk up to the water's edge and just look at you.
Like,
Wow.
what is this guy doing?
Exactly. They're like, it was as if they went and got their friends and went, what the heck is this?
You guys got to see this.
Yeah, like, come over here, guys. But,
That's crazy.
yeah, and up there it's all spring water, super clear. You could see, 20 foot to the bottom in some places.
Wow.
And there are Rio Grande perch. And of course there's, catfish, and they're just absolutely black, because the water's cold.
Yeah.
And so their color changes. And you see a few bass in there that were just gigantic. And lily pads. It was just, you would not picture the Llano River that clean and pure ever. Unless you went up that branch and you saw where the source was.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely gorgeous.
So did you do any fishing at all while you were on there, or was it just all business the entire time?
It was all business, but I tell you what, I marked down all the spots. Because I did. So, first of all, I could tell you that, of course, you'd have to look in the record laws, and there's a fish where that he's looking into it, because if you are on one of the branches of a river, it ties into record. And I mentioned these Rio Grande perch. So there was, like, in one particular hole, like 20 Rio Grande perch in this crystal clear water. And what's interesting is the record for the Llano River is like 1.5 pounds. And so, which there was about 10 fish that weighed easily over that. And so, if I was fishing there, I would have gotten myself into trouble, because I wanted to stop, and then I'd pull the fish weigher up and everything, and, it'd take a lot longer than what I did.
Yeah.
And then, like further south, there's all types of fish, everywhere. And the one I loved the most, and, being a Central Texas kid, I never saw an alligator gar on home.
Mm.
Yeah, and I got to see 3 different ones that were about over 6 foot.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, and I kind of caught the disease, and, what I want to do is I want to catch one on rod and reel. But I've heard that they just, they'll take a line with a freight train, is what I've heard.
There, yeah.
And there's one problem with this particular fish. There's one fish, there's a dam called Lane City Dam, and there is a gar there that measures probably up to about 7 foot, which for a river gar is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's giant.
Like, that's just absolutely gigantic. But anyway, he's in the restricted section, or the restricted area of that dam. And I saw him when the water was high, it was murky.
Yeah.
Come up in air. And I looked at him and I just thought, if you hooked into a fish like that on a rod and reel, there's no telling if you get him in or not. Like, just imagine how much muscle is on a fish like that. Like, it's just,
I mean, it's like hooking a human being, with far more power in the water than a human being would ever have,
Exactly. It's like one of us hooking into that damn linebacker.
Exactly. That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, I was just absolutely amazed. And, the amount of wildlife on, this whole thing, we're not just talking fish, but we're talking, birds and just other stuff you would see. Like, Texas has river otters, and that's something I never knew. Like, I never thought we had river otters.
Yeah.
There's also a population of beaver on the Colorado River, which I never really thought of Texas having beaver, but we do. There's all sorts of stuff, all types of birds and things like that. birds are kind of a weak point for me. I just kind of go, well, mockingbird, scissortail,
Yeah.
Right.
and besides that,
There's some dove,
yeah, like that's about it. Well, I would say if you were working, because how do I put this? This trip is not as isolated as people think because you hit a town every day and a half to 2 days
Yeah.
to where you don't have to carry all that much food.
Which is something I want to get into with you for sure.
Yeah.
It's just the logistics of that. But we'll get into that in a minute. But,
Yeah. Well, heck, what do you call it? It's a lot easier trip than people think, and I'm kind of surprised that nobody else before me has done something like this. Now, Debbie Richardson has.
Yeah.
But we're talking 2 people. Now, I remember that there was a couple of guys who went down to Boston in Matagorda. But I don't know what the whole details are. And from what I heard, their trip was kind of haphazard and not really all that well planned out.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
doesn't seem like something you'd want to undertake with kind of just like, let's go do this tomorrow.
Yeah. Like, there's a couple of paddleboard kayak hiking boots that they're selling now. And at least they have been for years. And it's like this weird kind of in between. It's a kayak, but you can also stand up in it, and it's a little flatter and wider.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing.
Like a fishing type kayak.
Yeah. And you can like stand it up on it too. It's which that wouldn't have been my first choice. Like even though that's coming from a guy that has a 14-year-old kayak, which among kayakers they consider that riding a dinosaur. But,
yeah.
There's some things I kind of believe they don't really change too much. Like I don't really think there's been much of a breakthrough of the aqua dynamics of a piece of plastic. Like a kayak. Like once you got the shakedown, then there's not much difference.
No. So, just to kind of talk a little bit about like logistics, how did you deal with? We'll start with food. How did you deal with like food and water?
Okay, so my initial plan was with water because that's the biggest thing in Texas people are concerned about. That I would filter my water and treat it. And coming up on the trip, I thought there was only one area where I would have to pack my water, and that was getting down near Matagorda, where it turns to brackish water.
Yep.
But taking the trip and doing it, I ended up drinking water all the way down to about Lake LBJ. And then after LBJ, I was able to pack my water from a few people that helped me. And I didn't really plan that. I just went, here's a water faucet. I'll haul it with me for the day. And I just never had to drink out of the lakes after that. And when I reached Austin, I started looking at the water. And I started noticing, all the junk in the river.
Sure.
And I can tell you this. Below Austin, you don't want to drink anything from that river. Okay?
No. Yeah.
Like, they have like a wastewater treatment plant there near Longhorn Dam, which is the last dam out of Austin. And I don't know what it is, and I cannot prove anything. I'm no water tester. But the air there is soaked with that wastewater treatment smell.
Yeah.
In the leaves, in the wood, in the banks. I don't know. I could say that they have a leak, but I don't have any data. I don't have any proof.
Sure.
But I smelled like that smell for another 2 days after going through there. And, something, I talked to a few locals, and they said that they've had problems with that wastewater treatment plant. So after that, I hauled all my water. And how I did that is I hit up parks, and I think I was able to rely on parks for the rest of the way. And I would usually haul around 2 to 3 liters of water. I would say right there at 3. And I was able to make it through. And this sounds terrible, but when I would get to a park, like let's say if they had a bathroom,
Sure.
I'd go in there and I'd turn on the sink and I would drink from that sink. And the reason why is that water coming out of that sink, even though it's a public restroom, is cleaner than anything out of that river.
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you ever seen the hand washing stations they put next to porta potties at public events?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like there's a little pump on it that you put your foot on, you pump it.
Yep.
Well, heck, I got water from one of those. Any place where water was fairly clean, I take it from, and I was able to make it through the whole trip with my water. Now, when it came to my food, I was just about the same as the Appalachian Trail. So a lot of people on shorter trips, Mountain House is the famous add water to
Sure. Like a
thing
bag.
to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the deal. I can't afford to pay $12, a meal.
Sure.
I just don't want to pay that. And so there's these things called rice sides that you can buy at H-E-B, Walmart, mini gas stations. And it's a green bag, and it's made by a company called Knox. And they make stuff like, what do you call it, chicken noodles. They make Spanish rice, cheddar broccoli. So I take something like that. Take Fritos, crunch them up, throw them in there. I would take dried sausage and dried beef jerky, and I throw it in there and rehydrate. I cook it. But the thing about your meat is you don't want to buy things like Jack Links, and you don't really want to buy beef jerky from H-E-B or something.
Sure.
You want a high-quality dried meat, because the problem with beef jerky is it has a large amount of sweeteners and syrup and sugar in it, and that's not what you need.
Yeah.
You're after protein. And so, if you're ever picking something out for some sort of long trip, go to a meat marketplace and buy dried sausage. When I do my food, there's 2 categories, and this sounds kind of ridiculous. There's food that's in a package, and you can pick it up, open it, and eat it. And then there's cooked food that you got to sit down and you got to cook. And that sounds a bit, kind of odd to categorize it like that. But one takes time, the other doesn't.
Sure.
And so, sometimes you're in a situation which you don't have time to sit down and cook something. And so you got to keep up with that. Sometimes, most likely, if you got to cook it, you got to use water. And that's where you run into trouble, because sometimes you may not have enough water when you go to camp. And then the next day comes in, and you're going to need water in the morning to get you going. And so that's why I break it up into those categories. And so that's kind of, heck, there's a lot of stuff I learned on the trail. If you look up, a lot of Appalachian Trail food recipes, you can learn a lot of good stuff on how to lightweight pack your food.
Yeah.
And when you eat on these trips, you're not eating because it tastes good. You're eating because you need to put that in you to keep going.
Yeah. Fuel.
A lot of people don't know what that means. One time, I ran out of food, but I was about an hour or 2 away from town, and it was about 4 or 5 miles. Well, the thing about I only had water, Kool-Aid, and coffee mix. And of course, this sounds absolutely gross, but I was running out of energy. I had nothing. And I mixed that Kool-Aid with that coffee mix. So then you have caffeine and sugar. And so the second that caffeine hits your stomach, it starts breaking down that sugar. And, oh man, you're going. Now, that stuff tastes absolutely awful. Like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But you needed something for, you don't have any body fat to break down, if that makes sense, at that
Sure.
point, where the energy you have in you is the only energy you got. So, anyway, that's, kind of a short deal on food or whatever. But, I guess for other parts of logistics, I guess, you guys would want to know how I kind of started working on a general plan for this trip.
Yeah, what was like step one? Like you researched it, you figured out you wanted to do it, and then did you like get online and research pathways and like break points that you could see on like maybe Google Earth or just on a map, or yeah, walk us through that process.
Okay, so the first thing I did was I laid out all possible towns to resupply at. So that was all the way from Telegraph all the way down to Matagorda. And, Austin kind of being the center point. And I forget how many towns I had. And we're talking everything from, a town of maybe 50 people, which is just a little bump in the road.
Sure.
All the way to Austin, which is just a metropolitan, super urban, all that. So I laid out all those points. And so, Marble Falls, Kingsland, Bastrop, Llano, Junction. And so I got all those laid out. Then what I did was I located resources near the river. And so just because there's a town someplace doesn't mean you can get food there.
Exactly.
Right.
You gotta walk over to the Valero or the,
Exactly.
get some gas station food.
And there was actually a few resupplies that were gas stations. And you got to get creative. You don't get to pick your primo spot. We're talking, Dollar General, any place you could resupply. And so I laid out all those points. And then what I did was I located all the dams. And so you had two kind of small dams. So you got Junction Dam, Llano Dam. Then you have the 5 big ones in the Austin area, Marble Falls to Austin. And then you had minor dams, down the way, little water break dams. And so the reason why I located those is, well, first you got to figure out how to get around some of them.
Yeah.
But that also takes a drain on your time to get around them. And how are you going to orient those throughout your day? Or is it going to be a midday checkpoint? Or is it going to be you get there at night and then attempt it in the morning? And so I laid out all the dams. From there,
before we go to the next thing, I just want to check. I want to ask, how did you get around the dams?
So, many dams. Okay, I'll start off by saying this. In the state of Texas, you are allowed to navigate around any obstacle on your course because of navigable waterways. Now, you look into your water laws and you start reading them, and you'll realize, use your head, because it kind of comes down to a judge on what your fate is.
Yeah.
They'll lay out all the rules, but then if you're paddling in the restricted section and walking through the Elster raised little fenced-in area on the side of the dam, they're going to come hunting for you.
Sure.
Okay? You got to use your head. So, how I would usually get around small dams is I could strap on a pair of wheels, and they go under my kayak, and there's a ratchet strap that goes on the top, and I'd wheel it around to the smaller dams. Some dams, you shouldn't do that because it was just out in the country, and it's just kind of a water break dam, and so you're grabbing your rope, and the ones that come to mind are the ones down south, getting towards Matagorda. And so you're going up these dirt banks and you're sliding your kayak up these hills.
Yeah.
And these dirt banks are, 40, 50 feet tall, and it's just loose dirt.
Sure.
With grass, on it. And, but on the bigger ones, when you get in Austin, I had a lot of people they started hearing about what I was doing, and they'd actually come help me navigate around them, which I was super thankful for because I would have been walking on a lot of roads with heavy traffic, and while the whole is difficult physically, getting around all that traffic, which would have just been horrible.
Yeah.
Let alone dangerous. It'd probably be the most dangerous part of the trip.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get a 14-foot kayak through Austin traffic. And so, yeah, like, you know,
that's a challenge. That may be more spectacular than the whole thing. Navigating Austin traffic with a 14-foot kayak.
So what does that entail? You
Yeah,
said that they heard about what you were doing and they would come out to help you. Like obviously you're not ringing people up that you'd never met to come help you on your river trip. So are they just sitting at the dam like waiting for you
Like
to come
there's
through,
Ethan,
like
the
it's a
kayak
parade
guy.
and
Yeah.
they're ready to...
So, a lot of the people that came to help me in Austin, in particular, were LCRA guys that
Okay.
had heard about me.
Yeah.
And of course, the LCRA, they did, you know, a little video on me and all that. And they had, you know, they were on shift. And they went, he's coming through. And so an officer would show up and he'd have his truck, you know, and we'd load it up. And he'd take me down to the next spot.
Wow.
That makes it real handy when you've got like the authority, the Colorado River Authority helping you out. You know, it makes it legitimizes you for sure. You know.
Yeah. What was funny is in Austin, you know, I guess you could say when this kind of became a little bit more famous was in the backstop area when KXAN did their little deal. But in Austin, like on the lakes, people would just stare at me.
Yes.
Like, because here I am, I'm all sunburned, I'm peeling, I have a palm hat on, and, you know, nobody wears a palm hat out on Lake, you know, Austin.
Yeah.
That's not a fashion.
Yeah.
And then I have this set of wheels, I have all this worn out junk, and I have this, you know, older kayak, and they're just looking at me like, what is this creature?
What is going on here?
Yeah, like, what is this thing? And so, you know, I paddle by and, you know, they just look. And so, as I went on, there was a lot of people after the KXAN deal that they started contacting me across Facebook and say, hey, I'm in Bastrop. You know, come find me. I'll help you. I'll give you a spot to sleep for the night, whatever you need.
Yeah.
And, you know, which is a real touching deal. You know, there's a lot more good people out there than bad people.
Heck yeah, there are.
Yeah.
You just hear more about the bad ones than you do the good ones, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, and so like there was a bunch of canoe places. They always loved helping me. You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Scoop up the river rat. You know.
Yeah, get him.
Yeah, but heck, I'm trying to think about anything else in logistics.
Well, what did you do, like, as far as camp, did you ever have to, like, you camped out? Like,
yeah.
So you just had, like, a tent and, you know, just kind of...
So, like I said, I'll start off with this. You can camp in the Speedway in Texas, you know, in any river. You can camp there, hike there. You can be there. Now, what I did is I hold a tent with me, with a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad, all that, and not a crazy, you know, $500 tent. You know, I just bought the cheapest two-person tent from REI that was on sale.
Sure.
And, which, you know, you can afford the weight on this trip because you're not really carrying it all the time.
Yeah,
it's all good, you know. When it comes to the best gear, there's a little triangle, at least in hiking and camping, between what weighs the least amount and like price and quality. You know, like there's a little triangle. You only get two. Heck anyway, and so I would camp, and in fact, most of my days were spent camping in the river bed.
Sure.
You know, especially in the beginning. My first break day wasn't until I would say until I hit Mason area, and so that was about 6 or 7 days into the trip. I did sleep in Junction, and I slept at the park. Right there, they have a bridge that goes across, and that was a little bit worrisome because there was a lot of people traveling through there, and I was kind of, in the middle of the night, and so you sleep very lightly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people milling
Heck,
about.
Yeah, like you'd be sitting there and you look out your tent quite a bit, and I put all my stuff very close, to my tent,
Yeah.
and there's another worry. The most dangerous thing on this trip, besides maybe a few physical, water things, is probably other people.
Yeah.
Many of them will help you. Like anybody reaching out to help you is there to help you. The ones hanging out at the park at 2 o'clock in the morning are probably not there to help you.
No.
And so here's the deal: be as gentle as a lamb, but clever as a fox.
Yeah.
And like the one bad encounter I had with the person, besides inquiring landowner, was there's a guy who tried to steal my kayak at Pace Bend Park, which I don't really know what he was doing. I suspect he was after my kayak, but I woke up. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're in your tent, and I tied my rope on my kayak to a tree, but I also had a bicycle lock that was spinning with me, and so I latched that on the back. And of course, I woke up, and somebody was trying to move my kayak. We're talking with me laying in the tent. This guy is about 10 feet away.
Wow.
Like he's close. And of course, I was carrying, but here's the deal. A lot of people don't know this. If a person is in 20 feet of you, if they're after you and they're coming after you, you cannot draw your gun fast enough to pull it up and shoot before they reach you.
Yeah.
And so this guy is in 10 feet. And so that's a person, that statistic I gave you is a person standing there looking at the person coming at him. And so I'd have to come out of that tent, and then he's there. And something else is, it's dark. And
Yeah.
what you got to realize is, why is he there in the middle of the night? It's because he doesn't really want to deal with you. He's trying to be sneaky.
Yeah.
But the odd thing is how can you be sneaky with a 14-foot kayak and you're the only guy hauling
A
it?
14-foot yellow kayak.
Yeah, like
yeah.
And so I'm sitting there, and I'm not a super stocky guy. I guess I'd be scrappy, but I don't really want to fight this guy either. Nor do I want to come out waving a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, what he didn't bank on is when I sleep on these trips on the ground. I got a sleeping pad. I'll wake up about every 2 hours and rotate. And so he was there in the time span in which I was shifting over, and I heard him.
Yeah.
And I wake up pretty quietly. And so I'm sitting there. He doesn't know I'm awake yet. And I'm going, okay, what can I do? Well, I'm in a 2-person tent. And he probably doesn't know how many people are there. And so I make a sound like I'm waking up. And then I make a sound that I'm surprised and I know he's there. And then I say something, I kind of say, hey, buddy, you need to wake up. There's somebody here. And so he's out there. He receives that, there's 2 people
There's
in
2,
the tent. And then he goes, I'm one person.
Yeah.
And they're about to discover me. And so he backed off. And I woke up in the morning, it was all dragged around, but he could not mess with my bicycle lock on the back that was attached to a tree.
Yeah.
Because he was just in the dark. And so I think that's a pretty good example of you use the tools available. You use your head.
Sure.
Because, really in that case, I tricked him. That's what I did. Like, you got to use your head. But besides that, when it comes to dangers, it's not really all that bad.
Well, one thing I
It's a
saw.
relatively safe trip.
Yeah, I was gonna say the one thing I saw on the video was you kind of perched up on a dam on like a on a like I guess maybe someone's dock in the middle of a thunderstorm. So did you deal with any kind of flash flooding or thunderstorm stuff? How was that? What was that like?
Okay, yeah. So there is, some weather concerns. I had about 3 hailstorms.
Oh,
I didn't get caught in any of them.
yeah,
Because I would say the most problematic one was the one you probably saw in the video. And so I was on Lake Travis. And the problem is, you got to paddle very far to parks. When the hailstorm hits, you're nowhere near a park.
of course.
And so you're in a bad situation. You can't just go up into somebody's dock. Especially when it's probably a dock that costs more than your house.
Yeah,
You know, and I found, because I knew the storm was coming, I found a place where they repair boat docks. And they'll have about 5 or 6 in the water. And so that's where what you saw is, I paddled up into one of them. And this is a bit weird, but if you're ever in kind of rough water, it is better to be out in the open rough water than immediately by the shore.
yeah,
Because you get bounced back and you also get, what would you call it, if you get up against the shore, then you're hitting up against objects and rocks.
yeah.
And, like, it would be rough for 3 feet off the shore than, out in the water. And so I knew it was coming. And so I kind of got up in that boat dock, and I just kind of rocked there until it subsided. I had my sunglasses on, and I had my hat on where the hail hit that dock and bounced up. It just hit my face, and it wouldn't hit my eyes or anything.
Oh my God, a hailstorm! Jesus,
Well,
that's crazy.
Well, it's one of those things, like, because, I've had a few times like that on the Appalachian Trail.
Sure.
I've had worse things happen. And it's one of those things, you're in that situation, and you got to do the best thing you can to use your head. And
Yeah.
that's, what I had. And I was able to peel out of there, and nobody knew I was even there. And I kept paddling after that. As for rises and stuff, I would say the next biggest challenge was down the river a little bit. I would say it was Columbus, right below Columbus. In that area, kind of southeast Texas, going towards the coast, water rises and falls by 3 or 4 feet almost daily.
Oh wow.
Which is something, I'm from the middle of Texas on the Llano River, to where that's something completely foreign to
Yeah.
me. That's something I've never experienced. And actually, I had one time, this was probably, now thinking about this, was probably the most dangerous time on this trip. It was a relatively calm day, nice and sunny, a few clouds, and I came up on a bend in the river. There was an 80-foot bank on one side, and then there was a sandbar that was completely flat on the other. And I knew there was somebody trying to message me and all that, and so I beached my kayak up on that sandbar, and I went up. I went up on that sandbar to get up out of the hole to catch a signal, and I went to a spot where I couldn't see my kayak anyway. And what I didn't know, because it had been flooding for days, the water had been fast for days, and what I didn't realize though is that was coincidentally the exact time that LCRA let out water, and it had made it to me at that point. And it's not obvious when water comes in that fast, but we had a 1-foot rise in about 15 to 20 minutes. And that was the 15 to 20 minutes I was taking a break.
Oh my gosh.
And so I look up, and my kayak is gone. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and you could imagine all those sorts of stuff I was saying.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
And I looked down the river, and it's about 150 yards, and it's just, there's logs, there's trees, there's overhanging trees on the water, and it's hitting stuff, and it's just turning, pinwheeling down. And so, all of a sudden, we're all frantic, right?
Yeah.
I gotta go get it. But here's the problem: you get off this sandbar, the banks turn back into about 40 to 50-foot dirt banks, and it has trees on it with brush in between. And the biggest thing that travels through that brush for trails are maybe raccoons. Okay, and so you got to weave yourself through all that brush, and by the time you get down to your kayak, and you're going down things like mats of trees with just junk on them, and you're worried about snakes and stuff, because if you get bit by something, it doesn't. At that point, it turns into a survival situation. So you're trying to go slow, take your time, and the whole time, what I was doing is I was saying, slow down, because if you rush this, you're gonna mess up.
It'll be worse.
It'll be worse, and that's and I think everybody has that. Like the adrenaline is going, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. And, I grabbed 2 oars. I say 2 oars, I have 2 halves with a single set of oars. And I grabbed them, which I didn't really know what I was thinking. But I went down there, and every time you get just about to your kayak, it would unperch and travel further down.
Yeah, of course.
And so that happened about 3 times. So at this point, we're about 200 yards away. And I get up to it, and the water's moving, at a pretty decent pace. And that's from, you looking into the water. And something you don't realize is you're not aquadynamic whatsoever. You think you can swim in that? You can't. So the kayak is about 20 foot out under a overhanging mesquite tree. And the loose branches are kind of capturing it because your seat is up and all your junk is on there, so it's captured on the junk, on top of your kayak.
Sure.
And so it's just kind of lightly there. Well, you sit there and you think, if you don't get your kayak, then it's going to go further downriver out of reach, because it's still in reach.
Yeah.
You just got to figure out a way to get to it. And if you miss it, then you're further downriver. Second, if you grab it, then you got to steer it to some place where you can get in it.
Yeah.
While you're going down river with it, you got to make sure that you don't hit anything. And there's a statistic. I know I keep hitting you guys with these, but it's if a man tries to survive alone in the wilderness for about 5 years, his chance of survival, I was told, is around 5%, which is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. And the reason I mention that is the reason why that probability is so low is he gets into something he cannot handle by himself.
Yeah.
Because if I had another guy, he'd paddle down, grab the kayak, paddle it back up.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I got to swim out, or I got to get out to my kayak in muddy water that's moving. And if you mess this up, or if you get caught up on something that's under the water that you don't see and it's mud brown, you can drown.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yeah, so you better be careful how you do this. And so I made, I was wearing a life vest. I took the 2 halves of my, paddles, and I don't know what I was thinking, because I went, I'll swim out there, and then I can get in it, and then I'll take my 2 paddles, put them together, and paddle off. Well, I shoved them up under, I shoved them behind me, and I did that because you don't want them in the front, and you don't want them up over your head, because they're going to get in the way.
Sure.
Well, even with them behind you, kind of tucked up under your life vest, it acts as a rudder. as a fin, to where I did one full swim. I swam back to shore, and I went, how can I do this? And then I realized, there's a mat of just crap, and it goes all the way out to my kayak, along with mesquite branches. And so what I did is, it was like grapevine, greenbrier, very bunny plants. It was just a big old mat of just junk. And so what I did and I had kayaking glue, so I wouldn't hurt my hand. I could grab onto that and the mesquite branches, and I slowly worked my way out to my kayak. When I got to it, I launched off with it, and then slowly kind of directed it back to shore. And I was actually using that kayak as kind of a buffer, because you come up on many trees and, just junk. And so, if I came up on something, I'd use that kayak to take the brunt of the force.
Yeah.
And I was able to get back to some place, and this is why I say it was kind of a ridiculous idea to bring my paddles with me, because I had a spare set in the kayak, so as long as I could get to it and steer it someplace, it'd be fine. Now, on the second attempt where I climbed out to it, I didn't have that force with me. I left it on the shore, because I won't be able to make it out there with these oars.
Yeah.
And so it all worked out, but that could have went bad very quickly. So
it sounds like it could have gone bad real quickly.
Yeah. But, it's, you use your head. To where hopefully you don't get in that situation. And luckily for me, it worked out. There's actually a kid that's talking about doing a similar trip that he's in high school. And I always think back, kind of when I went on the Appalachian Trail, I kind of worry about him, because I don't want him getting into a situation like that and then hurting himself. Yeah,
exactly.
Because, with the Appalachian Trail, there was a few times where you come across something like that, and you don't exactly know what you need to do, but you know how you need to think.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
How to approach it, how to attack it. And I kind of worry if because he wants me to give him advice on the trip. If you don't give him advice, then he could get into that situation. But if you do, then you also feel guilty for encouraging him to go on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
yeah.
It's an adventure. That's the thing, though. I mean, there's no way you go through that without some bumps and bruises. It's not just I just sat out and it was great, and I paddled and there was the sea. It was great.
I have to imagine a certain type of upbringing kind of like gets you ready for that too. I don't think Mr. Bobby Jones from the center of Dallas. Not that people can't live in the center of Dallas and be mechanically inclined and have that kind of survival instinct, maybe as outdoorsmen typically do. But I'm sure that being from where you're from, I'm sure your upbringing kind of led you to those survival
helped you there,
instincts and some tactics. Maybe like you said, you didn't no one writes a manual about what to do when you're on mile 432 on the Appalachian Trail when you run into an obstacle. You just kind of
and your kayak is now floating away from you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I kind of knew. How do I put this? You cannot take into account everything that might happen to you. But you can have an attitude to attack anything that might happen to you.
100%.
And that, that's what will determine success or failure. Because you'd meet people on the Appalachian Trail. They try to plan the whole thing out. You can't.
Well,
it's not going to happen.
It's like Mike Tyson said. Everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
And
that's exactly it.
And you gotta just know what to do when it goes south. How to deal with yourself more than anything, because that's what gets you into trouble, right? It's not the water, it's not the branches, it's not any of that, right? It's you. You freak out, you get yourself into a situation, and I think the wherewithal to be able to just say slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, I mean, it's a lot like when you're hunting and when you got an animal in front of you and you're looking to draw down on that animal, and it's the guys who can slow that down and make that process and hit. What are your steps here to pull that shot off, or when you catch a big fish or something like that, knowing not to rush, knowing how to calm yourself down in the presence of such an adrenaline rush and just kind of all the things that are going on. That's how you become successful at just about anything. You know,
I was thinking about making that point a while ago, just like when you are hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same thing. And of course, I think over time, for a lot of people, it starts to go down because they learn how to get a grip on it.
Sure.
But that feeling is the exact same one, and you go, stop, get control of yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're able to slowly wrangle yourself back to where you can move. You can
think,
plan,
yeah.
You can think. Yeah. And, heck, all hunters have experienced, the exact same thing.
100%. Yeah.
So
you finally get to Matagorda Bay, and it looks like you had a pretty cool little escort, on the video at least.
Yeah.
You had a cool escort out there. But then what'd you do? Did you have family waiting for you, or somebody there to pick you up and take you back, or?
So I had Frank Howell, and he was Howell's Canoe Library out of Columbus. And the one day I wasn't supposed to finish because I have 3 buddies that were going to come pick me up.
Sure.
And the one day I wasn't supposed to finish was a Monday. And the day that, what would you call it, that I couldn't avoid from finishing was a Monday. And so I needed to kill a day. And so what ended up happening is Frank came by, he picked me up, took me back to his canoe place, and we ended up, just going around town and going to a few events, and we washed off some kayaks, and, since he runs a business there, we just I hung out at his place, and he let me camp there, and it was super nice of him. And that's kind of, he handed me off to my 3 friends over in Bastrop at the Buc-ee's, and then I finally was able to get home. And so there was about a day in between where I just kind of, sat around and I waited. And it was also kind of nice because that allowed me to kind of sit down and just think about stuff. Like that one day, like after the whole kayak spin deal, the LCRA, the whole deal, I would look down at my phone and I'd look at the Facebook icon and it would have, not just 50, not 60, but we're talking like 100 notifications.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And when I turned my phone on, and of course it was in a car, but with the car kind of shining on it, it was in air conditioning and all that. But switching it off to airplane mode, my phone almost overheated because that day what I would do is every single spare moment I had, I'd sit down and I'd knock out the 30 notifications that I get in about 2 or 3 hours. And so I trimmed it down. Well, I stacked it up for a day, and so it just about, blew up my damn phone. Yeah. And so, things are starting to kind of simmer down now and even out. But to get home, I had a combination of people helping me get back. And the problem is, it's not just one person picking me up. I'm also hauling that kayak back home.
Yeah, so somebody can't come and get you in a Camry,
Yeah, it's not going to work out.
No.
So yeah, that's how I got back.
Wow, what a story, man. I mean, just just for somebody to do what you've done in your life, you didn't go on one great cool adventure. You've gone on 2. I mean, you have a whole other. You've got the RAM thing going on. You own your own business. I mean, What a cool dude.
Yeah, well, so a lot of people, so I journaled the 29 days that I was on the river. And what I plan to do with it, because there's a lot of people that want to know what I saw,
Sure.
and like the few stories I told you, it takes a long time to explain it, and to kind of lay down the groundwork and to talk about it. And there's so much more on this trip,
Sure.
because this whole trip reflects Texas like you wouldn't believe. It's probably the best way, in my opinion, to see our state. And the amount of time it takes to do a trip like this is not all that much.
Yeah.
I took 29 days, but I can tell you this: if I wasn't stopping and talking to some people and all that, it'd probably take me around 20.
Okay.
With better, more favorable conditions.
Yeah.
And like in this journal, I wrote down even the dang noises I would hear at 2:00 in the morning that I'd wake up to.
Yeah.
And we're talking because when I meet a sportsman, it's not just fishing and hunting, which is the common. What would you call it? That is the common view. Oh, fishing or hunting.
Yeah.
Or both. When I think of a sportsman, I think of Theodore Roosevelt.
Absolutely.
Okay? And so we're talking a man that knew, the different types of trees. We're talking different types of grasses, the different types of game, and that includes big and small. We're talking birds. Heck, I'm reading an article from a bunch of magazines called True West, and these magazines are probably around 40 years old. And there was an article about Theodore Roosevelt accompanying a man that would hunt wolves by catching them by hand. Okay?
By
Which
hand.
is just crazy.
That is incredible.
By hand.
Ooh.
Which is just outrageous. Now I think that's a little stupid.
Yeah. But hey, good on him.
And so what I plan to do with this journal, is not just what I saw, but the people I met, the different things I saw. Like for example, the Llano River has only one wheelhouse, and what's interesting is this wheelhouse was used for irrigation, to irrigate fields and to provide water for the ranch. And it's not how you would think. You think of a wheelhouse, there's a big building with a big old wheel on the side.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that. It's about 5 foot in diameter and surrounded with rock.
Huh.
And it's in the river. And it gets piped up a hill to the ranch. And that was made by a German family. And it was only washed out once, which was the record flood on the Llano River.
Yeah.
And that was in 1935. So this wheelhouse, I say wheelhouse, this water wheel, has been on the Llano River for like 80-something years, and it's still working. They still use this. So they've been coming down and fixing this thing, and it's still working. And so there's that. Then there's other little bits of history, like old cowboy history. There's actually places where the settlers would cross their wagons on the river.
Sure.
And this is all stuff, this is all small history that people want to know. Like, a lot of people don't know Wharton. Wharton has a famous racehorse that was born there. And he accomplished things that only 3 other racehorses in racing history accomplished. And he was, his mother was from Louisiana, and his father was from the King Ranch. And so there's another Texas tie. And so the river has been with Texas culturally for many generations. And there's many things of wildlife. There's many people things. There's many cultural things. There's a huge array of things, I think, that people want to know. And hopefully I'll be able to take that journal and expand it out into something that, people people like us would enjoy. Because I'm hoping to touch not just sportsmen, or no, not just kayakers, but I'm hoping to touch like guys like us who like fishing and hunting,
Sure.
and, the whole thing.
Just anybody who enjoys being outside. I mean, if you just like being outside, no matter what it is you like doing outside, I can't imagine you wouldn't enjoy this story.
Exactly.
You know?
Like if, everybody has a connection to the river. It's something everybody can kind of
Sure.
relate to. And I think that's why it was such a big hit here in Texas this last trip, because we were talking about, here you walk 2,000 miles and then you kayak 500.
Yeah.
And the kayaking 500 was the big deal. It's because people relate to it easier.
Yeah.
They say I passed the lane, or I passed the river.
I've been there. I've been on that river.
It kind of always, since the beginning of time, has held civilization, and like you said, you see all the history go down the wheel turbine in the river, and I don't even know how you got all the how you get all the information on all this stuff. It seems like you said, you talked to so many people. I'm sure that made the trip even more wholesome and like such a history lesson.
Yeah, just connection with people is such a enriching thing, and I would imagine this was a lot of fun in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you get to meet all types. I mean, like, heck, there was a lot of opportunities that I never planned out that just kind of happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got to sleep in a cabin a pecan farmer made on the river in his pecan orchard.
Wow.
Which is pretty dang
Yeah, that's
cool.
pretty cool,
and that's
yeah.
pretty dang, and that's pretty dang Texas. Like, I don't really think, that's hard to beat. And you see turkeys out in the, pecan grove. Of course, he hated that because it was eating his pecans. But, and, you see deer go through there, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about, it's about mental fortitude. It's a story that tells like 25 different stories. It's about mental fortitude. Yeah. It's about the human connection, and like you said, what is Texas and what is the history of that river, and I don't know, there's 50 other things I could come up with right now to say what this story blooms into 50 other stories that you could write books about, probably on all of this. So, and all in a month. Yeah. If anyone could say in 29 days I've experienced all of that, I could tell you work gets monotonous in a month, and you sometimes forget, like, what did I even do in December? What did I do in January that was noteworthy or something? So hearing a story like that makes you kind of want to live like more, I don't know, more to the max. That's just one way to say it.
More enriching.
Yeah.
Enrich. Yeah. Live day to day. You know. It's like I would say in high school towards the end, something. And of course, this sounds odd. I read a bunch of self-help books.
Sure.
And of course, a lot of people look at you funny because when they see you read one, it's like, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" Nothing.
No, I just want to make myself a better human being.
Right.
Yeah. And where I'm going with that is something that they would always say is write down your goals. And that's been a lot of my success, because I have a list that I've had for about 2 or 3 years just on some plain notebook paper. And I've written down a lot of my goals. And then what I do is I break them down. And to tell you about my trophy ram deal, because it's a good example. Coming out of barber school, or in barber school, I had no money. Okay?
Sure.
I worked as a ranch hand, and I made probably a whopping $200 or $300 every 2 weeks. And so, trophy rams, some of these rams, like if you get a premium, like eyebrow raising ram, it's around $6,000-$8,000.
Sure.
And here's what's harder: everybody will sell you a ram, but they won't sell you any use.
Yeah.
It won't happen. And so, I started buying sheep, and I thought any sheep I could buy was, within my grasp. And then from there, I bought 2 trophy rams and bred them too. And then all of a sudden, I had decent views. Then I sold the old ones. And we slowly built up to a point, and I'm selling about 5 rams every half year. And of course, we're still in the growing stage, but you start looking, measuring the horns we have, you start appraising the stock we have, and we're at a point now you can value my stock anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000.
Oh wow!
And it's one of those things, Rome isn't made in a day.
True.
And your goals, you have the big overhang goal. It's just a combination, or it's just a sequence of a lot smaller goals and dedication. And so living day by day, and you still have fun. The world isn't about working all the time, but whether your goal is for recreation, or if it's for business, or if it's a personal goal, live it day by day. And a lot of people get caught up in focusing on what other people are doing. And that's where their failure is, because you can try to keep up with the crew a lot of times. Yeah. But the way you're going to be the most successful is working on just you. Don't worry about everybody else. And before you know it, you'll be soaring. And everybody will be going, what the heck? What did you do? And the funniest thing is, you just kind of did what, all those dang Rocky movies and all those dang corny, David and Goliath movies.
Well, I had a mentor that always talked about cliches, and he was like, cliches, they're cliches for a reason, and and it's kind of like you said, it's kind of corny, but I think those are the types of things, those are those fundamental aspects, and just like anything else that you're trying to do in life, whether it's sports or doing a podcast or whatever, right? There's fundamental aspects to it you got to do. And the more that you focus in on those fundamentals, the better you become at those fundamentals. The better you're going to be at whatever it is you wanted to be.
Like you were saying, what better comparison can you have than of yourself? Like no one's two situations are ever the same. So I can't look at John and I can't look at Bill and see like where they're at and compare myself to them, because there's only there's myriads of differences between each other's life stories, but you can always look at yours from yesterday and you can say, well, there's something I can control and that's something I can, be better at.
That's exactly it. I would say about first grade all the way up to about sophomore year, I wouldn't say anything to anybody. I was a very shy guy. And now, mastering all those little principles. Heck, I'm doing, presentations and, just yakking people with people about this trip and going up and talking in front of 30 or 40 people at a time. And I don't even sweat it now. And so it's exactly like you said, you cannot compare anybody else to you. Just, you do yourself and working on you. And that's where you'll find success. Just trying to be better at being you.
Absolutely. It's great advice.
Yep.
Yeah. And of course, just like you said, you find a mentor and you watch them and you see successful people and you watch them and you copy them and you watch how they behave and why they are successful. And usually, if you keep watching them long enough, you'll start acting like that, and then success will find you.
No, I agree totally. We were talking to someone earlier tonight before you who I thought was extremely like dedicated to what he, I don't know, just his hobby, his activity that he's in, and he talked about how he had some guys that were about 20 years older than him that he looked up to and that drive him, and we all have those people in our lives that kind of do that for us, and that's one of those things that's super important to have is someone that you can look up to.
Yeah, like finding successful people and mimicking their habits is a huge thing.
Especially it's a big deal. You obviously had some big influences when you were young, and I remember, being a hunter, being at a very young age, I latched on to like my dad's AC repairman who would take me hog hunting, and I still remember so many of the things he told me back then that, especially in East Texas and doing all the hunting there now that we do, it just translates over years later.
Yeah.
It's not like he's in my ear every day saying it. And it's not like, I don't know, it's not like, I guess, amazingly cool whenever you're very young to be hanging out with much older people, but man, they sure save you years of heartache.
It's not cool at the time, but it is cool a lot later in life,
right.
typically.
It's like, man, it's like they knew so much more than my buddies back in high school would have ever known. I'm glad I spent some time with those guys, because they just give you insight that you can never know. It's just all diversifying your friend groups and your relationships.
Yeah, your perspective.
Yeah. A lot of younger guys are intimidated with the idea of being friends with older people.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm 22, and the thing about Mason and Fredericksburg, and this sounds odd because of property prices, and things like that, you don't find anybody 25 and below. And so here I am, 22-year-old, has his own little gig going. All my customers that come to me are usually 30 years and above, and most of them average between 40 to about 55. And so I talk to people all day that are older than me, and used to it was like, oh, they're in a separate class, and then eventually I realized, no, these people are no different than me stepping out of high school. It's just the only difference is time.
Yep.
And the wisdom they have to offer is great. And because they have been, and this is so cliche, they have been where you have.
Yeah.
They have been you. And you just have no idea. So yeah, it's a part of growing yourself, and that's a big part of the outdoors. And that's the outlet, that's the valve for many individuals. It doesn't have to all happen in some big, great, phenomenal, whatever trip. And most of the time, it happens when, a little kid is sitting with his dad on a whitetail hunt out in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just little bits of wisdom that are drawn. And it helps grow people and makes them understand, well, like life and death. There is a lesson right there. There's a push and pull of the tides, just like the ocean.
Yep.
The footprints go across the beach, and they're set in the sand, and then the waves come by and wash off. That is, the push and pull of life. Cleaning in, a new wave, new life, sweeping away, erasing. And that's the same thing in managing, a lot of, whitetail deer populations here in the hill country. In Gillespie County, we have one of the highest whitetail deer populations, to where management is a very big thing. Now, in other areas, it's cutting back, letting something grow. And so, like I said, push and pull.
Yeah.
Cleaning something out or leaving it be.
It's like the great Kenny Rogers said, you got to know when to fold him. You got to know when to hold him, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it,
Well, Ethan, I can't tell you how much we appreciated you being on the podcast and all the great information and what two tremendous stories. And like you said, we could talk to you for hours, man, but it's getting late, so I cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast and being a guest. And if somebody wanted to find out a little bit more information about you, how would they go about doing that?
So they could, I guess if they were just wanting images to look at, they could go to my Instagram and talk about another corny thing. My Instagram handle is the man from Texas. No numbers or anything.
I like it.
And then, nice and simple. And then my Facebook is just Ethan West, ETHAN WEST, and then they just friend me on there, and I've been friending everybody else back, and so that's how they can find out a little bit more about me. I'm kind of an open book, but yeah, it's been a great honor to be on this show, and it's always nice, talking to any outdoor show, outdoor podcast, outdoor whatever, because I think that's something that's very ingrained in Texas culture.
Well, I mean, I think too, part of what we do a lot here on this podcast is talk about public land hunting, and what you did was possible because of Texas, the stream access laws that our state has, and so. We're very active in a group called the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and they are all about maintaining stream access laws, right? And so we actively talk to people at the state level, people at the federal level about how important it is to be able to go and do something like this, right? And you didn't impede on anybody's personal property. I mean, you went down a river, right? That you got to go to all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, and I think the fact that we live in a state where we have 97% of the land that is in our state is owned by private entities, and the fact that there's waterway access laws that allow you to get on a river and go all the way to the Gulf of Mexico from inside of the state of Texas is pretty phenomenal. And I just love that. Was to me, I mean, obviously your story is just highly impressive, but to me, the fact that that was the first thing I thought of, was like, wow, this is somebody who's taken the rights that we have within the state to the and using them properly. It's what a great story, though.
Heck, I really appreciate y'all guys having me. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, guys, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Check out Ethan on Instagram and Facebook. There's cool video out there by the Lower Colorado River Authority. And then, I mean, I can't even wait to hear what your next story is going to be, your next adventure.
I got something going, but I can't officially tell y'all guys on the podcast, but there is something else cooking, but the first thing is to get that book done. That's the first deal.
I can't wait that's going to be an awesome book, and I'm super excited about getting to read that.
Yep.
I'm a sucker for anything that's in the state of Texas.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, especially with it just being here, and you're able to relate to it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But heck, it was really nice talking to you, Abe, and it was really nice yakking with you, Brandon. Like, it was a cool deal. It was worth the wait.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for being patient with us tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, so guys, make sure, like I said, once again, check out Ethan and check us out on iTunes. Make sure you're following us and subscribing so you can see all the new stuff that comes out for us. So, thanks a lot, Ethan.
Okay. Hey, I'll see ya.
All right, man. Later.
Bye.
Thanks, Ethan.